There's a silence that screams louder than any word. A truth caught in your throat, a heavy thing, a stone. You carry it, don't you? This invisible weight, the desperate urge to lay it down, to finally breathe out the words, "This is me, this is what I truly feel." But then, the faces, the ones you love, the ones you've built a life around, their smiles, their expectations, the delicate web of connection you're terrified to tear. And the question echoes in that screaming silence. If I speak my truth, will I lose them? This isn't just about a difficult conversation. It's about the fault line between your soul's deepest need for authenticity and your heart's deepest fear of abandonment. Stay with me, because today, we're not just going to look at that fear. We're going to walk through it together, and perhaps find a way to speak, to be seen, and still belong. Let's call her Sarah. Mid-30s, a warm smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes anymore. She's a graphic designer, meticulous in her work, the kind of person who remembers your coffee order after meeting you once. On the surface, her life is a carefully curated image of okay. A loving partner, a close-knit group of friends, a career she once felt passionate about. But beneath the surface, the carefully constructed dam is cracking. There's a truth about her needs, her dreams, perhaps a quiet unhappiness she's been swallowing for years that's pushing to be heard. The central question that haunts her late nights, staring at the ceiling, is one many of us know too well. Asterisk, how much of myself do I have to sacrifice to keep the peace, to maintain the love I'm so afraid to lose? And if I finally speak what's truly in my heart, will there be anyone left to hear it? In Sarah's life, these conflicting values aren't abstract. They have faces, voices. There's her mother, Eleanor, a woman who weathered storms with a quiet stoicism, who believes love is measured in sacrifice, in putting others first, always. Her mantra, spoken more through sighs and knowing glances than direct words, is asterisk, family is everything, dear. Sometimes, you just have to endure for the sake of harmony. Asterisk, her presence is a warm, heavy blanket of tradition, of safety, but also of unspoken expectations. Then there's Chloe, Sarah's college friend, now a freelance artist living in a vibrant, slightly chaotic city. Chloe is a whirlwind of self-expression, a believer in radical honesty. She'd say, asterisk, your life is your canvas, Sarah? If you're not painting with your true colors, what's the point? Who cares what anyone else thinks? Asterisk, Chloe represents the allure of freedom, the call to authenticity, but her path seems so different, so unburdened by the connections Sarah cherishes. And quietly observing, perhaps, is Sarah's partner, Mark. He's not a source of conflict, but a potential casualty of it. He loves Sarah for who he believes her to be. He's kind, steady, but perhaps not fully aware of the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. His unspoken value is stability, the comfort of the known, the unvoiced question hanging between them. Asterisk, if she changes, will their carefully built world crumble? The tipping point arrives unexpectedly, as they often do. A casual dinner with Mark's family. His sister, well-meaning but oblivious, announces her own exciting career change, a bold move Sarah secretly admires. Later, Mark mentions a promotion opportunity for him, one that would require them to relocate, to build an even more settled, conventional life. The unspoken assumption is that Sarah will, of course, support this, adapt, continue to be the steady, accommodating partner. That night, the silence in their bedroom is deafening. Sarah lies awake, the unspoken truth a physical ache in her chest. The path of least resistance, the one that keeps everyone comfortable, stretches out before her, clear, easy, and utterly suffocating. Asterisk, is this it? Is this all my life is meant to be? A series of quiet accommodations until I disappear completely? Asterisk. Two paths diverge in her mind. Path 1. Say nothing. Support Mark. Smile. Let another piece of herself erode. Path 2. Speak. Risk the bewildered hurt in Mark's eyes, the disappointment from her mother, the potential unraveling of the life she knows. But what if the life she knows is the one unraveling her? She could try to gently suggest her own needs, a small compromise. Or she could continue to suppress her feelings, hoping they'll eventually fade. But the script template demands a twist, a choice that feels true to the character's internal journey, even if it defies societal logic. The real question isn't just what she will do, but why, and what deeper understanding will guide that choice. An understanding we'll explore through the lenses of psychology, philosophy, and a touch of Buddhist wisdom. To understand Sarah's paralysis and the path through it, we need to look deeper, beyond the surface of her fear. Let's peel back the layers. From a psychological perspective, Sarah is likely experiencing what's known as enmeshment, or a fear of individuation. This often stems from early relational patterns where personal boundaries are blurred and self-worth becomes tied to maintaining harmony and approval from others. The good girl, or pleaser, archetype takes root, leading to a suppression of one's own needs and desires to avoid conflict or the perceived threat of abandonment. Dr. Harriet Lerner, in The Dance of Connection, speaks to how difficult it is to change well-established patterns in relationships, noting that when one person changes the steps, the whole dance is disrupted, often leading to resistance from others. Sarah's fear isn't just about losing Mark or disappointing her mother. It's about dismantling a core part of her identity that has, until now, felt essential for her survival and connection. The anticipated loss feels like a loss of self, a terrifying void. The solution, psychologically, involves differentiating, recognizing where her feelings end and others begin, and building an internal locus of control where her self-worth is not solely dependent on external validation. Philosophically, Sarah's dilemma touches on the age-old tension between individual autonomy and communal belonging. Existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre would argue that authenticity is paramount, that to live in bad faith, denying one's true self for the sake of others, is a betrayal of one's freedom and responsibility. Yet, communitarian philosophers emphasize that we are inherently social beings, and our identities are shaped and sustained through our relationships. Charles Taylor, in Sources of the Self, explores how our understanding of the good is often tied to our social frameworks. Society, particularly for women, often implicitly, and sometimes explicitly, values agreeableness and self-sacrifice. The ideal partner or daughter is often portrayed as one who prioritizes the needs of the collective. To speak a truth that disrupts this harmony can be seen not just as a personal choice, but as a challenge to these ingrained societal norms. Sarah is caught in this crosscurrent, the existential call to be true to herself versus the societal pressure to maintain relational cohesion, even at personal cost. Is there a way to honor both the self and the other, or is a painful choice inevitable? From an applied Buddhist perspective, Sarah's suffering arises from attachment to specific outcomes, to the approval of others, and to a fixed idea of who she is and who they are. The Buddha taught that clinging, upadana, is a root cause of dukkha, suffering. Sarah clings to the idea that speaking her truth will inevitably lead to loss, and she clings to the current form of her relationships, fearing any change. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of interbeing, the idea that we are all interconnected, that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. However, this doesn't mean suppressing our truth. Rather, it means speaking and acting from a place of mindfulness, compassion, karu, and loving kindness, metta, for oneself as well as for others. The practice of right speech, samavaka, encourages us to speak truthfully, kindly, and at the right time. It's not about blunt, hurtful honesty, but about skillful communication rooted in understanding. Sarah's path might involve cultivating inner stillness through meditation to see her fears without being consumed by them, and then finding a way to communicate her truth with clarity and gentleness. Understanding that while she cannot control others' reactions, she can control her own intention and actions. The aim is not to avoid change, which is inevitable in Nikka, but to navigate it with wisdom and an open heart, recognizing that true connection can often deepen when built on a foundation of mutual authenticity, even if the path there is challenging. Sarah doesn't choose the explosive confrontation Chloe might have, nor does she opt for the silent endurance her mother, Eleanor, embodied. Instead, after weeks of inner turmoil, of journaling, of sitting with the discomfort, she does something unexpected, something that feels small yet monumental. One evening, instead of automatically agreeing to watch Mark's preferred TV show, she says, very quietly, "Mark, could we talk? There's something I need to share about how I'm feeling, about us, about me." It's not a demand, not an ultimatum. It's an opening. She doesn't list grievances. Instead, she speaks about her own internal landscape, her feelings of being adrift, her quiet yearning for a different kind of fulfillment, her fear of losing herself. She doesn't blame him for the relocation idea, but explains how it crystallized her own anxieties about her path. The aftermath isn't a dramatic explosion, but a series of ripples. He's initially bewildered, a little hurt. I thought we were happy," he says, the words laced with genuine confusion. This is the reaction Sarah feared most. But because she speaks from her own vulnerability, not accusation, he doesn't shut down. He listens. It's uncomfortable. There are long silences. But he stays. He asks questions. Tentative, careful questions. Eleanor's first instinct is to soothe, to advise a more practical, less disruptive path. "Are you sure you're not just tired, dear? Marriage takes work." But Sarah, now anchored in her own truth, doesn't argue. She simply states, "I know it does, Mom. And this is part of my work, to be honest about what I need to be a whole person in it." Eleanor doesn't fully understand, not yet. But a seed of Sarah's new way of being is planted. There's a subtle shift from automatic agreement to respectful differentiation. Chloe is, of course, supportive. Good for you. It's about time. But even Chloe's reaction is tempered by Sarah's approach. It wasn't about burning bridges, but about carefully, honestly, trying to rebuild them on more authentic ground. Sarah didn't choose Chloe's path of radical independence, but found her own way to integrate honesty into her existing connections. The most profound shift is internal. Sarah hasn't won anything. The future is uncertain. But by speaking her truth, not as a weapon, but as a vulnerable offering, she has reclaimed a part of herself. The air in their home, while initially tense, slowly begins to clear, carrying the possibility of a new, more honest dynamic. Speaking your truth isn't a single act, a finish line you cross. It's a practice, a way of being in the world, moment by moment. It's the courage to turn towards the discomfort, to honor the voice within that whispers, "This matters." Losing connection is a real fear. But perhaps the greater loss is the one that happens silently, inside, when we betray ourselves to keep a fragile peace. The path to authentic connection, the kind that nourishes and sustains, is paved not with suppression, but with the vulnerable offering of our true selves. It doesn't guarantee that every relationship will survive the shift, but it does guarantee that you will. What if the choice isn't between speaking your truth and losing them, but between a superficial connection based on illusion and the possibility of a deeper, more resilient bond built on honesty? What if the people meant to be in your life are the ones who can meet you in your truth, even if it's uncomfortable at first? If Sarah's story resonates with you, if you feel that familiar ache of unspoken words, know that you are not alone. This journey of aligning your inner world with your outer life is one of the most profound we can undertake. What is one small truth you've been holding back? You don't have to speak it to the world today. Perhaps just acknowledge it to yourself. Write it down. Let it breathe. If you found value in this exploration, consider subscribing for more reflections on mindful living. And if you feel moved, share in the comments one insight or question that arose for you. Sometimes, just knowing we're on the same path, asking the same questions, is the greatest comfort of all.